Hey everybody, it is day 36 um, of 365 days of my raw suspending disbelief journey, and it is May 28th, 2024. My youngest child, Casey, turned 4 years old today, so it was definitely supposed to be a day of celebration. Um, I had some I had a lot of electrons. Let's go with that. A lot of electrons going on um, today, which just tells me that the good is coming, right? It was also a little bit like a test to see if I was still going to maintain a boundary that I had put up, um, if I was still going to stand up for myself in a specific situation, etc. It was like a little bit of a test from the universe. So today was technically supposed to be my day as far as parenting goes, co-parenting with my ex, right? I was supposed to have the kids today, but it was her birthday and he had them last night and was going to be dropping her off in the morning. And he asked if he could keep her for part of the day so that he could spend some time with her for her birthday. I said yes. He stopped by my house to let me say good morning and happy birthday to her and whatever after he dropped my son off at school. And I gave her, so she wanted a cat birthday, and I gave her a helium balloon, which I like searched everywhere for to finally find a cat balloon because she wanted a cat birthday so bad. So I got this helium balloon filled with three cats with party hats. Okay. And it was pink and it was perfect, right? So she was super excited when I gave it to her this morning. Um, she loved it, all of that stuff. And then he, as he was sitting there, he was talking about like, oh, maybe we'll go get some things for this and for that and the other thing. And the thing is that he likes to talk about how broke he is all the time. But he also likes to spend money and he likes to brag about spending money and then also complain about being broke. Like very contradictory. Um, Anyways, I had already purchased the stuff to make her a cake. I was going to shape it like a cat's head and cut out some triangle pieces and put them for ears and all the things, all the different icings and decorative stuff to decorate it and so on. And he I told him this. I told him I had the stuff. I was going to make this head shaped or the cat head shaped cake and whatever. And he said, oh, well, I was going to do this. And what he was going to do was get a picture thing that you can put on the cake to like, instead of having to do the work or whatever. And I was like, okay, but I already have the supplies. Like he was talking about going to buy one still. And I was like, I already have the stuff. And we were originally planning to do, uh, like have us both there this evening, get, everybody at my house and just do like dinner and cake and presents and whatever all together. So there was no reason to do two cakes, right? And anyway, try to make this story a little bit shorter. All of the things which he knew I was doing or that I had done, he specifically spent the day with her, longer than I had originally agreed to, and took her around, taking the surprise out of all of it, and basically one-upped me in every area. So he went and got a bigger cat unicorn helium balloon. He went and got like the picture thing for the cake so that it was like not necessarily better than mine, but it was there first. And so there was no point in me cooking mine or like baking a cake and decorating it and all of that stuff. And just on and on and on. Like it was just one thing after the other. And um this is not to say that she wasn't enjoying it, that she wasn't having fun with him, all of that stuff. But I had all of these things planned already. He was going to buy dinner, and he basically just went and was like, going to do it all myself so that I get to be the good guy. I get to be the amazing one who did everything. And what it actually came down to was he hadn't even gone shopping for her birthday present. I did that for him. My oldest daughter wrapped the gift. I had to find a gift, like come up with the idea for the gift for him because he didn't know what to get her, etc. Like this was um the actual situation, but he's very good at like he will just put the money behind being able to show up better, look more generous, all of that stuff. And it all comes with there's always a twist, there's always a dark side to it, right? And this is pardon me. This is something that I've learned, and it breaks my heart knowing that my kids are going to learn it. Because I can't stop it from like nobody can control anybody else, so I can't stop him from doing it. It does make me really sad for them. In the moment, they enjoy the big, flashy, the more expensive, all of those things. But I do know that long term, this is going to be an issue and something that they will realize, something that they will be like, they'll see effort versus dollars, or, all of those things are actually like him knowing what they would like versus me telling him what they would like, which by the way is going to stop. Like he can figure it out himself because he can dig his own hole is basically where I'm at this point after today. So anyways, again, long story short, today I had a plan. It did not go according to plan. I was very disappointed and heartbroken. I did not get to spend the day with my daughter. He ended up having her and my son all day until just before bedtime, because I told him, like, you know what, screw you. Like, I had all of these things planned. You knew I had all of these things planned. You're such a jerk, basically, right? And I was like, I just am not doing this. I'm not going to support this. I'm not going to allow this kind of crap to continue where then I show up and it looks like you did everything and I just showed up to eat the free food, right? Like, so I was like, nope, I am gonna do my own celebration with her tomorrow. You do your thing tonight since you've already gone and done all of this stuff. And I'm going to sacrifice actually celebrating my 4-year-old's birthday with her on her birthday, even though it was supposed to be my day, and I will do it tomorrow. And that was it, first of all, super hard because I wanted to spend the time with my daughter. But this is a line that he keeps on crossing, and I keep on putting up a boundary, and I have to keep on holding that boundary. And so this can't be different just because it's her birthday. There can't be an exception to that. If he's going to be abusive in any way, there's a wall. No, not happening. And I am anyway, it was very heartbreaking though for me. It was a very difficult chunk of my day. So grateful for my beautiful friend Alex, who randomly sent me, like, she didn't even know what was going on. She randomly sent me just an I love you voice note. Like, it was just like this, hey, I just wanted to let you know how amazing you are kind of a thing. And just like all the warm and fuzzies kind of thing. And it had me from where I was trying to keep the emotion of it all contained. I was letting it out during the day when my kids weren't home. But then when Cadence, my oldest, came home, I was trying to just keep it held in. Because I didn't want to be getting angry at her for something that he did, right? I didn't want my emotions to spill out on her. And was basically thinking I needed to keep contained until after the kids were in bed tonight. And heard this voice note and just burst into tears, right? 'Cause it was just, I just felt so held instead of so smashed to pieces. Like, instead of somebody having to one up me all the time and making me feel like crap, like I'm not good enough, like the things I do aren't spectacular enough, aren't exciting enough, all of that stuff for our kids. Instead, I had this person reach out randomly just because she loves me and be like, "Hey, just want to tell you how amazing you are. I love you," all of these things. And it was just like, fuck, thank you. Like, just such a I know that there are so many people in the world, so many more people in the world who are supportive and loving of me, towards me, whatever. Um, but he is very skilled at the game of being hurtful. So I won't deny ever that I get hurt by that. Or that, he makes things difficult. So anyway, um, definitely like some ups and downs today, right? I did end up, like, I went and got the kids and um, brought them home. We did bedtime a little bit late just so that she could open her presents here and play around a little bit and be silly with us and whatever on her actual birthday. And we'll do a full celebration tomorrow, with grandpa and grandma coming over and stuff like that. Anyway, all of this, it can be really hard to sometimes put these like stories out there and then tell you why I'm putting them out there, because they are always related, right? So in this case, suspending disbelief came up when it was like, do I just accept the fact that he was just such an asshole and just did this and go and just be there for my daughter's sake, um and have this continue, right? This is a cycle. This is something that has happened every year for more than a decade now with him, for every special occasion, like on and on and on. So today I had to suspend disbelief that it would hurt my daughter in some way to not go. That it would, like, I was suspending disbelief that she would be better off in the long term and even today to see that mom also did a lot for her and cared about her and thought about her and whatever. And it just happened to be that she was with dad today, right? So I made that decision, but that was really tough. It was not a simple thing. And I definitely needed to suspend disbelief and be like, nope, I know this is for the best. I know that me putting up my boundaries and saying, no, this way of behaving is not okay. And I will not continue to allow you to treat me this way. Um, I know that that is necessary. I know that that is what needs to happen for my energy to stay separate from his, for my kids to actually be protected and have somebody in their corner, right, who's not just giving in to the bully. And so this was a really tough one to do, but it absolutely took suspending disbelief for me to do it. And so I definitely wanted to share about it, even though it's a little bit hard to share about. Um, I also had a realization, and this one was tonight. I was actually talking to. Oh, I got a sleeping baby beside me. It's her birthday. She wanted to sleep in mom's room, and don't know what just happened there. Um, Anyways, I was talking to one of the ladies from my business coaching membership, and she we were actually talking like in the comments of the video training that I did yesterday for my membership. And it was really incredible. She said something which triggered me to not triggered me in a bad way, but which triggered my realization. So, um, one of the things that I said in in this training, and I've said it other times, absolutely, um, was that when you're learning something, and this is applicable in every area of our lives, you guys, and it's something that is very easy, I think, for most people to forget, and maybe I don't quite say it enough. Might start saying it more. But what I always say is take what applies to you and leave the rest. Now, um, what she had mentioned was that taking what works for you and leaving the rest is an Al-Anon teaching. And she said, you probably knew that. And I was like, actually, I did not know that. As far as like having a recovering alcoholic ex and like the other ex, all of these things, I'm like, I didn't know that. I've never been to an Al-Anon meeting. I've never, I didn't know that. I wasn't aware. But what her comment triggered for me to realize was that I started verbalizing it more when I got into the spiritual coaching or spiritual spiritual community online, because I heard people verbalizing it in a way that I could identify with, I think. So I then took that, and again, I always take what is mine or what's needed for me and I leave the rest, right? So I would listen to intuitive readers who were reading for multiple people at once. So the idea is to only take what feels like it resonates for you, because some of it might be meant for you and some of it might be meant for someone else. So don't ever try to force it to apply to you. And then there are readers who just maybe aren't in alignment or who aren't tapping in properly or whatever to channel the true things, the true messages that you need to hear. And so it's always important to trust your own intuition about what's in that message and if it's for you or not. And if it maybe only parts of it are for you, or maybe some of it just feels really, really awful, even if it's true. And you're like, I don't want to face that right now. That is still a choice that you get to make. You get to leave behind what doesn't feel good for you. So as a it was something that I struggled with when I first got into the spiritual world, because I had just come out of my decade-long relationship with a narcissist, again, which I just mentioned, a narcissist, a gaslighter, like emotional, mental abuse, um, where I had really been separated from my own intuition and from trusting myself and all of those things, because everything was always gaslighting, right? It was always like, no, you're mistaken. No, like that's not the truth. That's not what it actually is, etc. But what I realized, like, yes, I took that piece on and I started talking about it and verbalizing it more when I got into the spiritual community, because I was like, yes, thank you. That's true, right? And I could feel that it was true, so I took it on. Um, but actually, this practice of taking what feels good for you or what works for you and leaving the rest behind, um, is a way of being that I've always embodied. It's something that I have always done, um, from being a really young child. And I don't have all of the memories of these things, but I know from all the stories over the years, from all of it, whatever. And the memories are starting to trickle in more and more. But it's a little bit smoky here, I think, again today. The kids are all of a sudden coughing, and I was smelling it earlier. So, um, sorry if you guys are picking up the coughs. Anyways, so this is a way of being that I've always embodied, right? And this started as young as, like, I don't know, really, really young, like at church as a young child. I would be told all these pieces, and I always had questions. I always had like, I don't know, that doesn't fit for me, or and eventually, I ended up leaving organized religion at 15 years old, um, coming from a very strict religious upbringing. Okay. And I left organized religion, but I never left behind believing in a higher power that loved me, took care of me. Um, I did leave behind believing in a higher power that was cruel and, um, would ever punish me or whatever for things like having tattoos or smoking or drinking or, any of these kinds of things. I was like, that doesn't make me a bad person. All of these people at church who are so, you know, and this is quote unquote morally pure, who are not, who are, what am I trying to say here? They are keeping their physical body so, again, quote unquote pure. Um, but in their minds, they're judging everybody else. They are thinking unkind thoughts. They're saying unkind words. They are making people feel like they're not worthy. They are, all of these things. I was like, those people to me are not good people, or they may not necessarily be not good people, but they're doing things that are not good, that are hurtful to others. And I don't think that me choosing to smoke a cigarette or choosing to have a drink of alcohol makes me a bad person. And so I was having these kinds of thoughts in my teens, right? And even earlier in my younger years as well. But not quite to that extent when I was younger. Anyway, so what ended up happening is I walked away from organized religion, but I took things with me. I still prayed, right? I still um, felt spiritual. I still felt those kinds of things. And then I was reflecting on how this was like all through grade school, right? If friends were saying things and it felt good to me, cool. And if there were people that were talking and it felt like crap, it just didn't feel aligned, I just didn't listen to it. I didn't focus on it or take it in, right? Um, and this is one that's really tough for a lot of people to believe, but I never really did understand peer pressure until I hit adulthood. So all through my grade school years, I just kind of did what I wanted and not what my friends wanted. And I never asked permission for it. And I always still had lots of friends, um, more than most people, but without it being like a fake thing. I have always had a lot of close friends, even. I was friends with every clicky group and whatever. I was in all of them. I just was friends with everyone because I just didn't care. I was like, there's nobody gets to say who I get to hang out with. Nobody gets to say that I'm not good enough to be part of their group. Nobody gets to say, like, I just was, right? I just always just did what I wanted. I always went and I just would be in those groups. And I just like, it's very hard for me to verbalize because it's just always how I was. Um, and I think that, to be honest, I think most people accepted it because it was authentic, right? It was not like I was actually trying to push or force or whatever. I was just being me. And I was so reliably me, right? It was just like, yeah, that's just how she is. So we just deal with it, like whatever. And um I mean, this went all the way through like not caring about clothes. I was in like second or third hand-me-downs for most of at least elementary and I think even junior high. Um and I never cared. I never really at all gave a rat's ass about clothes. Until I was probably around junior high, right? And then it was like I wanted to choose things that I liked, but it wasn't like I want to choose things because they're cool to my friends. It was I wanted to choose things that I liked, that felt good to me, and not have to wear the cast offs, right? So, anyway, in my teen years, then it was like, all of the drugs came in and everything, and they were everywhere. There all sorts of drugs. Like I hung out in bad circles, right? But they were offered and they were even like pushed where people were like, come on, come on, come on. And I just had no interest. So it was like, nope, nope, not interested. Nope, not interested. Nope, not interested. And I just didn't do it. And I never lost a friend over it. I never um was, like excluded for that. I still just hung out with those people. I just didn't do it with them, right? And um it was fine. I don't know, like, and when it came to actually like cigarettes and alcohol, I was actually um in junior high, I was the first of my friends to do all of those things. Nobody influenced me to do it. I went, up to a stranger and asked for a cigarette because I decided I wanted to try that. I wanted to um know for myself whether that was for me or not. And not just because my parents and my church had said that it was bad, right? Because by then I was questioning like all these things that they were saying were bad, but then watching people be such hypocrites and watching people be really judgmental of other people, right? And it was like I was already at this point like, you know what? If they're lying about that, they must be lying about everything. So I'm going to test it all out. And I chose to drink. I chose to smoke cigarettes. I chose to, all of these things. And to be honest, I was probably a bad influence and my friends started doing it because I was. Um Not because I was pushing it on them, but just they followed suit, right? I started this and I've always been like that. I've always been like the trendsetter. So even accidentally. And anyway, I just always did me. I just always did what I wanted. And not in a like disregard other people's feelings way, but just in a, does this feel good for me? No, I'm not doing it. And so I wouldn't do what didn't feel good for me, right? And when I say feel good, like my brain was like, nah, or my body was like, that feels awful, or whatever. Like I would just not. And um, it took me writing this out in response to, like, I was reflecting on it in response to what she had said, and I was like, wow, I'm just realizing, right, as I'm writing this down, how fully I've always embodied this without even knowing it, like without choosing it or planning it or trying. I've always just done this. Um and then I was kind of like, well, it might be more of a part of my like, unique genius or whatever you want to call it, my um my unique edge or whatever than I ever realized, because it just is who I am, right? It's not something that I've learned or something that I've had to conquer, right? It was just the way I just always was, at least as far as I ever remember, or ever remember hearing about either. Um, Another example that I had shared with her was when I turned 18, because I would hide stuff from my parents. I didn't want to get in trouble from my parents, right? So when I was a teenager and I was doing stupid shit, I hid stuff from my parents, and they were overly strict. So it was almost kind of reasonable, right? But when I turned 18 and I was an adult, I literally sat them down and was like, "Hey, guess what, guys? This is who I am. This is what I do. This is how I'm living my life. And like, too bad, suckers," right? I didn't say it like that, but it was just like, I'm doing me. I'm gonna be me. And I was really surprised because at that point, um, I still thought that my dad, my biological dad, was um my more aligned parent, I guess you could say. Like we got along better. Um, and I, me and my mom did not. Like we butted heads hard. And um, anyway, my dad flipped out and was like, "You can't be doing this. You can't be doing that, whatever." And my mom was usually the one who was like, "You're going to hell. Like you're doing all these horrible things," and and whatever. She went from that to, "No, you know what? You've always made your own choices, and I know that you will be fine. You've always done what's right for you, and it's always worked. So, you'll be fine." She totally shocked me that day. I did not expect that, and I was like, "Oh, well, there we go, right?" And then I also did acknowledge tonight that I had um, a massive dip in this for myself, where I allowed, and this is where I mentioned that I never actually understood peer pressure until I was an adult. And it was when I met my husband, and he went to work on my brain basically. And again, so manipulative, the narcissistic stuff, the gaslighting, and um, that finally overtook that unbelievable self-confidence, right? That unbelievable self-trust that I had, and hid it, buried it nice and deep, right? And it took me over a decade to walk away from that and say, like, this is not who I am. This is not for me, right? Um, and then it has taken me the last couple of years since leaving to really, I mean, not the entire couple of years, but it took me a good chunk of that to really get myself back, to really be back to fully embodying this and not really at all in any way, shape, or form giving a fuck, pardon my language, what anyone else thinks. Like, it's just who I am. Um, and I will say, aside from him, obviously, who tries to like control and manipulate what I'm doing, I have not come up against resistance with this. And I think that it's because there's no resistance in me to doing this. There's no part of me that's like, should I do this? Am I brave enough? I don't have these thoughts. I don't think, is that a good idea? I just do it. I just do me. Um, and I can truly say that I am back there now, that I just am back there, and I just do what I do, and I do it for me, and I do it, consciously, not being hurtful to other human beings, and just, um, but to the point where, like, if it's a matter of, am I going to do something that is, out of alignment for me versus out of alignment for someone else? Well, when it comes to my actions and my choices, I'm going to do what's in alignment for me. And if it's unaligned for someone else and they're not happy about what I did, that's their problem. And um, that can sound, when you're coming from a really unhealed mindset, that can sound very abrasive. That can sound very like uncaring, like I'm just like, screw them. But that's not what it is. What it really is that it would actually not be serving them for me to give in either. And it never served my husband for me to give in either, because it just allowed him to continue this abusive pattern and whatever, right? Um it was just such a perspective shift tonight. And um it really helped me to realize that I was it helped me understand better who I was. There we go. That's what I was looking at. And I was thinking about earlier today, I had been thinking about how last night, recording my episode, I had been saying how I am already there. I'm at my success, right? And instead of it being my success is inevitable, my success is already here. I am successful, and I could feel it energetically. It was just like, this is it. This is where I want to be. This is energetically how I want to feel. Everything's amazing, whatever. And that was me declaring my manifestation to the universe. Like, this is what I get. This is what I'm basically demanding, right? Like this is my life now, and you're going to make that work for me. And I had, because of that, I was calling in, I was talking about the electrons. Hopefully that part got recorded. But if not, go back to the episode where I talked about Jess's comparison of manifestation to atoms. Okay, so today was the electrons coming in. And instead of rejecting it to the universe, I stood my ground, right? Like, no, I get to be successful. I get to have a good day with my daughter. I get to not be overshadowed forever. And like, end of story, right? Nope, I get to be successful. I get to be happy. I get to have a wonderful connection with my child, no matter what my ex does. And I get to release the fact that her actual birthday, her technical birthday, didn't get to be mostly with me, and decide that tomorrow gets to be our special day instead. And, um, you know, all of that, the fact that I can stand so strongly in this suspended disbelief that I can just be like, no, it's fine. Like, I am going to do this. And yes, I had my like little bit of a meltdown today, but I still was able to stand in this. Nope. Like, I am still calling in this manifestation. I am still claiming my success. And nothing and nobody can take that from me. No matter how much of a dick my ex wants to be, no matter anyone else who may try to sabotage, I get to receive this. I get to be successful. I get to have my manifestation. I get to um, have that inevitable success coming in. And these electrons aren't going to phase me. I mean, they'll phase me momentarily, but energetically, it's a separate story. So when it comes to, for any of you who don't really know, when it comes to energetics, vibration, one of the things I learned recently, which was super powerful, was the difference between vibration and frequency. So your frequency is like the level, the learning that you have achieved. So the level that your soul has accomplished as far as energy goes. So like, I have come to this frequency. My soul is at this frequency, and it doesn't come down from there. At least not easily. So like, a day-to-day annoyance, basically, like this awfulness of today, is a blip, right? It's nothing in the um bigger scheme of things. Um, it's a blip in the scheme of things, and it not going to affect my frequency. Okay, if I were to change my lifestyle completely, and okay, just off the top of my head, first thing that came to mind was like, start abusing drugs, or start drinking all the time, or whatever, like change my consistent vibration, then it will affect my frequency. But right now, my consistent vibration is higher, therefore my frequency is higher. So what gets missed a lot in the spiritual world, online at least, is that our vibration does not need to stay high all of the time to still be calling in the high result that we are aiming for. So we can have a down day, or we can have crappy feelings. We can have sadness and anger and all of the things that we deem quote unquote negative. And that isn't going to affect our manifestations unless we make it a way of being, unless we make that like our consistent state. And so, um, yeah, so that awareness and the suspending disbelief, all of the pieces today just made it so that I could be like, no, it, it's still coming. Um, today was a down day, and it's fine. And tomorrow is a new day, and it has nothing to do with anything as far as the bigger scheme goes, as far as the big picture goes. I just get to be successful, and that's all, right? And it's not even about like some sort of a punishment, or a, what do you even call that? Like, I'm not trying to do it to spite someone else. I'm not trying to, um, have something to rub in anyone else's face later. All of the people, not all of the people, but especially my ex, who, has zero belief in my success, right? It's not about, oh, I'm going to do this to prove you wrong. It's just, I get to do it. Like, he's just not even part of the consideration, um, as far as my success goes. And that is really, really powerful, and it's new for me. So I thought I would share it. New relatively to the last little while, right? Not necessarily today only, although I got more clarity on it today. And I think that's how it goes with everything. Um, these little tweaks in perspective that make things just a tiny bit clearer each time. And we shift a little bit, we pivot a little bit, right? And more clarity comes in. And it's just a constant shift. It's the whole purpose of having a human experience, of living our life, is to get this clarity, to get to know ourselves better, and um just keep on going. And uh yeah, so it just, this is going to be a longish episode, guys. I'm really sorry about that, but it was um difficult to explain without giving more detail, I guess, without giving the backstory. But grateful for the conversations with clients today that allow me to find more clarity for myself, right? And I love that. I love that I'm giving and serving clients, and that just by asking a question or making a comment or whatever, that my clients are also giving back to me in that way. I mean, oof, aside from the fact that they, yeah, I had to stop recording again while a coughing fit happened. Um, Man, like the stop and starts are very difficult for me to keep my brain on track, especially at night. So, um, yeah, I just think it's so important that all of us are consistently allowing ourselves to shift, to pivot a little bit, to tweak our perspectives, and allow that clarity to come in. It's one of the things that I help my clients do, and I love that it's reciprocated. I love that they also help me to get more clarity. Like it's just a feedback loop, and I just love it. Um, so, okay, all of these things said, I th- I think I got all the big things for today. Um, I am going to be done with this. This episode is already really long. I love you all for listening through it. Sorry if there's a bunch of noise, or like I'm gonna probably try to clip a little bit of the coughing out where I would stop, but beyond that, I'm gonna leave it as is, because as usual, this is supposed to be just my raw podcast. I'm not supposed to be editing this. So I love you all, and I will talk to you tomorrow.